1997. NVIDIA boardroom. 6 people around the table. Nobody's smiling. Your CFO slides a spreadsheet across. You look down. The numbers you already knew. The nights you stayed late, rerunning every line after everyone went home. We have 6 months of cash left. 6 months. That's it. The room goes silent, just the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Your heart's pounding, but you keep your face calm. Jensen, we need to pivot. The VP of Engineering speaks up. NV1 failed catastrophically. The Sega deal collapsed. We're burning $1 million a month. He's not wrong. A year ago, you bet everything on your first graphics chip. It failed. Wrong architecture, wrong partnership. You had to lay off 70 people, 70 families. A board member leans forward. Multimedia chips, that's the hot market. Intel's dominating PCs. We sell to them. Safe. Proven. Everyone nods. Sounds reasonable. Multimedia chips are safe. But gaming? Gaming is a bet on a market that barely exists. But you've seen something they haven't. You've watched kids at the arcade, eyes glued to 3D screens. You saw Doom running on PCs, pushing pixels in impossible ways. You know the math. PC hardware is getting more powerful. The conditions are ripe. We go all in on 3D gaming, you say. The silence gets heavier. Jensen, the CFO speaks again. There is no gaming market. We're building chips for customers who don't exist. They will exist, and when they show up, we'll own it. You have 6 months to be right. If you're wrong, everyone in this room loses their job. The company dies. Investors lose everything. Your name becomes a cautionary tale in Silicon Valley. Play it safe, or bet everything on a market that doesn't exist yet? This is Jensen Huang's story. The decision he made that day turned NVIDIA into the most valuable company on Earth. $3 trillion. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to the beginning. Jensen Huang didn't start out wanting to build a tech empire. He was born in Taiwan in 1963. When he was 9, his parents made a decision that changed his life. They sent him and his brother to live with an uncle in Kentucky. Here's the thing about that decision. His parents didn't just send their kids to America for better schools. They sent them because they were scared. Taiwan and China still had tensions. They wanted their children safe. So 9-year-old Jensen arrived in Kentucky, couldn't speak English, didn't know anyone except his brother. His uncle enrolled them in a local school, but it wasn't a normal school. It was a Baptist reform school for troubled kids. Jensen shared a room with a kid who hid a knife under his pillow. This is where Jensen Huang learned English, not in a classroom, by surviving. His first job? Washing dishes at Denny's. Not an internship at a tech company, not a prestigious research lab, a Denny's. Washing dishes. Minimum wage. Learning American culture through late-night shifts, watching people order Grand Slam breakfasts. He did well. He worked his way up to waiting tables. Then he studied electrical engineering at Oregon State, masters at Stanford, then joined LSI Logic, then AMD, designing microchips. By his late 20s, Jensen had a stable career, good salary, married, wife, pregnant. Then he quit. 1993. Jensen meets 2 other chip design engineers at a Denny's. Not a fancy restaurant, not a Silicon Valley pitch meeting, a Denny's. Full circle. Chris Malachowski and Curtis Priam. They're frustrated with the same thing Jensen is. 3D graphics on computers are terrible. Games look flat. Scientific visualization is limited. They believe graphics processing chips can be so much more. They sketch out the idea on napkins. Build a company that makes chips specialized for graphics, not general-purpose CPUs like Intel, specialized processors. They name it NVIDIA. Raise some money. Not much. They're realistic about their odds. Their initial strategy is safe. Make multimedia chips for PCs. 1993 is the PC boom era. Intel is printing money. If they can make chips that help Intel processors handle video and audio better, they have a market. 2 years, that's the plan. Then Jensen realizes something. He watches the market. Everyone's making multimedia chips now. It's becoming a commodity. Margins will collapse. They'll be competing on price with dozens of other companies. He looks at gaming. Gaming in 1995 is tiny, niche. Kids play consoles on Nintendo and Sega. Some hardcore PC users play Doom and Quake, but the market is small. Graphics cards barely exist. But Jensen sees a pattern. He watches how kids react to 3D graphics at arcades. He sees how fast PC CPUs are improving. He runs the math on Moore's law. He realizes in a few years, PCs will be powerful enough to run real 3D games. The market doesn't exist yet, but it will. In 1995, NVIDIA pivots. They kill the multimedia chip strategy, all in on 3D graphics for gaming. 1997. NVIDIA launches their first product, the NV1. Disaster. Here's what went wrong. Jensen made a technical bet. He chose a rendering method called quadratic texture mapping instead of the industry-standard triangle-based rendering. Why? Because Sega was building a new console, and they wanted that rendering method. Jensen thought if he won the Sega contract, NVIDIA would have a guaranteed customer, revenue, stability. Sega cancelled the deal. Now NVIDIA has a chip using the wrong architecture. Game developers are building for triangle-based rendering because that's what everyone uses. The NV1 isn't compatible. Sales collapse. The chip fails. Jensen has to lay off 70 people, 30% of the company. He's devastated. He knows these people, their families. He walks through the office after the layoffs and sees the empty desks. But here's the critical moment. Jensen separates tactics from strategy. The tactics were wrong. Quadratic texture mapping? Bad bet. Sega partnership? Bad bet. NV1 architecture? Bad execution. But the strategy was right. 3D gaming is coming. He wasn't wrong about the market. He was wrong about the product. So he kills the entire NV1 product line, erases all that work, all those engineering hours. Gone. And he bets everything on a new chip, the Riva 128, built on triangle-based rendering, industry standard, compatible with DirectX and OpenGL. That decision brings us to 1998, to that boardroom, to 6 months of cash remaining. Here's the situation in early 1998. NVIDIA has $5 million in the bank, burning $1 million a month. Do the math. 5 months runway. Maybe 6 if they cut costs. The Riva 128 is in development, but not done. They need at least 4 months to finish, manufacture, and get it to market. That means they have 1 month of buffer, 1 month margin for error. If anything goes wrong, the company dies. The board is scared, and honestly, they have good reason. Competitors are moving. 3DFX just launched the Voodoo graphics card. It's selling well. They're dominating the tiny gaming graphics card market that exists. ATI is making chips too. And here's the punch. Jensen's investors tell him the smart move is to pivot, make multimedia chips for Intel's PC ecosystem. That's where the money is, guaranteed revenue. NVIDIA could become a profitable niche player, small but alive. Jensen's CFO supports this plan. The numbers make sense. Multimedia chips would generate revenue in 3 months. They survive. But Jensen sees something everyone else doesn't. He's been watching the gaming market. Quake just launched. Massive. Hardware acceleration for 3D graphics is becoming something people want. Demand is starting to materialize. If NVIDIA pivots to multimedia now, they miss the window. They lose their position in gaming. Someone else will own that market. 3D FX, ATI, whoever gets there first. The board thinks Jensen is being stubborn. They think he's too attached to his vision. They think he'll kill the company because he won't admit he was wrong about gaming. But Jensen isn't being stubborn. He's done the math. Let's put you in Jensen's shoes for a moment. Late night, 2 in the morning, you're alone in the lab. Everyone went home hours ago. Your wife calls, asks when you're coming home. You say soon. That was 3 hours ago. You're staring at the Riva 128 prototype on the desk. This is it. This is the chip. If it works, NVIDIA survives. If it doesn't, everything ends. You run the numbers in your head again. 5 million in the bank, burning 1 million a month, 4 months to launch, 1 month of buffer. The phone rings. Your wife again. Jensen, are you okay? You say yes, but you're not sure that's true. What if you're wrong? What if gaming doesn't take off? What if 3DFX crushes you? What if a competitor beats you to market? The investors have a point. Multimedia is safe. Intel needs those chips. You could be profitable in 6 months, small but alive. But here's what you know that they don't. You've watched kids at arcades, their faces when they see 3D graphics. That doesn't go away. That's the future. You run the curves, P, C, processing power, graphics memory costs. The rate of game developer adoption, every trend line points the same direction. The gaming market is about to explode. 3 years, maybe 5, every PC will have a 3D graphics card. It won't be a luxury, it'll be standard. You can see the future, but you have 5 months to prove it. The prototype boots up. The demo runs. 3D graphics rendering smooth as butter. Beautiful. But will anyone buy it? You're about to find out. Jensen makes the call. We don't pivot. We finish the Riva 128. We stay in gaming. The board pushes back hard. Jensen, this is reckless. We have one shot. If we miss, there's no second chance. Jensen's response? I have conviction. The data supports this. Gaming is coming. If we pivot now, we miss it. But here's what makes this decision remarkable. Jensen isn't just betting on emotion. He's calculating the risk. He looks at the burn rate. He cuts costs everywhere he can without killing the product. He negotiates better terms with suppliers. He pre-sells chips to potential customers before manufacturing. He stretches 6 months into 7, then 8. He's not gambling. He's buying time. And he makes one more critical decision. He doesn't try to make the perfect chip. He makes a chip good enough to ship. Fast. He prioritizes speed over perfection because in startups, survival beats perfection every time. August 1998. The Riva 128 launches. First week sales. Strong. Game developers love it. It's faster than 3DFX's Voodoo. Compatible with more games. And cheaper. Word spreads fast through the gaming community. Forums, reviews, benchmarks. The Riva 128 crushes competitors in every test. By the end of 1998, NVIDIA is profitable. First quarter of 1999, they do $150 million in revenue. $150 million. A year earlier, they had $5 million in the bank and 6 months to live. Jensen was right. The gaming market exploded exactly when he predicted. But here's where the story gets interesting. Jensen doesn't stop. Most CEOs would play it safe after that near-death experience. Diversify, make chips for multiple markets, reduce risk. Jensen does the opposite. He doubles down. In 1999, NVIDIA launches the GeForce 256. They coin the term GPU, Graphics Processing Unit. They brand it, they own it. Then, in 2006, Jensen makes another concentrated bet. He launches CUDA, a software platform that lets developers use GPUs for more than gaming. Scientific computing, data analysis, rendering. Why does CUDA matter? Because it locks in developers. If you learn to program on CUDA, you build on NVIDIA's platform. That's a moat. Then 2012 happens. AI researchers at Stanford and Toronto discover something. GPUs are perfect for training neural networks. The parallel processing architecture Jensen built for 3D graphics rendering? Turns out that's exactly what you need for deep learning. Jensen didn't plan for AI, but because he built CUDA, NVIDIA was in the perfect position when AI exploded. Here's what Jensen learned that day in 1998. When you see a technology shift before the market does, concentrate capital. Don't diversify. Go all in. But calculate survival runway. Make sure you can survive long enough to be right. This story teaches us about capital allocation, specifically concentration versus diversification. Most people think smart investing is spreading risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify your portfolio. Play it safe. But Jensen Huang's story shows us something different. Diversification protects wealth. Concentration creates it. Here's the principle. When you have high conviction about an undervalued technology or market, and you have enough survival runway, concentrate capital. Don't spread thin. Warren Buffett said it perfectly. Diversification is protection against ignorance. It makes little sense if you know what you're doing. Here's the mechanics. Diversification reduces variance. If you own 100 stocks, no single failure kills you. You're protected. But no single success transforms you either. Concentration increases variance. If you make a big bet on one thing and you're wrong, it hurts. But if you're right, asymmetric returns, exponential. The math. If Jensen had diversified into 5 product lines in 1998, maybe he survives. Maybe NVIDIA becomes a $100 million company. Good outcome. But by concentrating everything on gaming GPUs, NVIDIA became a $3 trillion company. $3 trillion. The difference between a good exit and generational wealth. Why does this work? Because big technology shifts create winner-take-all markets. The best graphics chip doesn't take 20% market share. It takes 80%. Network effects, developer ecosystem, brand recognition. They compound. If you're there early and you're right, you win big. But only if you concentrate. Only if you go all in. Let me break down exactly how Jensen executed this principle. First, pattern recognition. He didn't guess. He observed behavior. Kids at arcades, game developers, Moore's law curves. He saw the convergence point before the market did. Second, calculated risk, not reckless gambling. He had 6 months of cash, not 6 days. He cut costs. He pre-sold chips. He stretched runway to 8 months. He bought time. Third, all-in execution. He completely killed the multimedia chip line. No backup plan, no diversification. 100% resources on the Riva 128. Fourth, build a moat. He didn't stop at hardware, he built CUDA, software lock-in, developer ecosystem. That's why when AI exploded in 2012, NVIDIA owned the market. They weren't just selling chips, they were selling a platform. Here's the result. 1998, 5 million in the bank, 6 months from death. 2024, 3 trillion market cap, 600,000 times return from near bankruptcy. That's not luck. That's concentration.
Here's how you apply this.
Whether you're building a company, climbing the corporate ladder, or just managing your paycheck. If you're starting a business, don't try to serve 5 markets at launch. Pick one, the one you have the highest conviction about, the one where you see the shift happening. Go all in on that market. Become world-class at one thing before becoming mediocre at 5 things. But here's the critical part. Make sure you have survival runway. Jensen had 6 months. You need 12. Minimum. Build emergency reserves before making concentrated bets. This isn't reckless gambling. This is calculated risk. If you're climbing the corporate ladder, don't diversify skills too early. Don't be a generalist at 25. Become exceptional at one thing. World-class at one skill. That's what gets you promoted. That's what makes you irreplaceable. Find out which technology or skill is undervalued today, but will be essential in 5 years. Then spend 80% of your development time on that thing. Jensen's GPU bet in 1998 is like someone learning AI engineering in 2020 before ChatGPT. Nobody cared about prompt engineering in 2020. In 2024, it's a 6-figure skill. If you're investing, the 60-40 stock-bond split is diversification to protect wealth. If you're 25, you don't need protection. You need creation. This doesn't mean putting your entire net worth into one stock, but it does mean concentrated bets on high-conviction ideas when you're young. Diversify when you're 50 and you're protecting wealth, not building it. Here's the mistake people make. They diversify too early. 25 years old with 5 side hustles. That's not diversification, that's distraction. No mastery across 5 domains instead of world-class at one. And here's the other mistake. They concentrate without survival runway. They quit their job with 3 months savings to start a company. That's not concentration.
That's desperation.
The formula: high conviction plus survival runway equals concentration. Remove either variable and you're just gambling. One more thing. Jensen killed NV1 but stayed concentrated on 3D gaming. He pivoted tactics, not strategy. That's the distinction most people miss. If your market hypothesis is right but your product is wrong, don't pivot to a new market. Build a better product. Today, NVIDIA is worth $3 trillion. Read that again. 3 trillion. With a T. That's the most valuable company on Earth. Worth more than Apple. Worth more than Microsoft. Worth more than the entire GDP of most countries. Jensen Huang is worth over $100 billion. He kept founder equity, never sold early, never diversified too soon. But here's the crazy thing. NVIDIA's dominance isn't just from gaming anymore. Gaming GPUs are still huge, but the real money? AI. Data centers, cloud computing. Every major AI model, GPT-4, Claude, Gemini, trains on NVIDIA chips. Not Intel, not AMD, NVIDIA. Jensen's 2006 bet on CUDA created a moat that's basically unbreakable. If you're a machine learning engineer, you learn on CUDA. Your code runs on NVIDIA. Switching costs are massive. The concentrated bet from 1998 is still compounding 26 years later.
Here's what's remarkable.
Jensen gets asked in interviews, "Would you do anything differently?" The answer: I would bet bigger. Not more cautiously, bigger. Because here's what he learned. The 1998 crisis wasn't a near-death experience that taught him to play safe. It was validation that his methodology works. See technology shifts early, calculate survival runway, concentrate everything, build moats. When the AI revolution happened in 2012, Jensen didn't panic. He didn't diversify into dozens of different markets. He concentrated harder. He bet everything on AI infrastructure. And it worked again. The lesson: if you're right about a major technology shift, the returns from concentration are so asymmetric that cautious diversification is actually the riskier move. You know what's risky? Missing a generational opportunity because you diversified so much you couldn't commit. Jensen's story shows us that survival plus concentration beats diversification when you see the future early. But what about when you don't have investors? What about when everyone tells you to take the money and you say no? Next time on Proto, we meet Sarah Blakely. She bootstrapped Spanx with $5,000, cut the feet off her pantyhose with scissors, and refused every single investor who wanted in, even when competitors were raising millions. How do you win when everyone else has more money, more resources, and more time? See you then.